Let's go ahead and use the SolidFireShared plugin to create a volume for us that can be consumed from a Xen server resource pool as a shared storage repository. So we can see here I have a single Xen server resource pool with two hosts in it. Host 1 is being highlighted, and now host 2. There is not at present any shared storage repository. If we switch over to the SolidFire GUI and we look at the Active Volumes subtab, I'll do a refresh here. We can see that there are no volumes currently on the SAN. Let's go over to CloudStack. In the Infrastructure tab, under Primary Storage, I'll click the View All button. In the upper right, I'll click the Add Primary Storage button. And now, since this particular type of primary storage actually exists at the cluster level, we'll keep the scope as cluster. The zone, pod, and cluster are actually already set for us, but if they weren't in your case, of course, we could switch those. We'll provide a name. Let's go with SolidFire Vol 1. The protocol is custom. The provider is not SolidFire, but rather SolidFireShared. The capacity bytes, so this is how large we'd like the SolidFire volume to be. I actually have this information in a separate document. Since this is a fairly large number, it's 1 terabyte, and the field in the CloudStack GUI expects this in bytes. So let's go ahead and paste this in. The next field we'll fill out is the URL field. Let's go back to my document. I'll highlight the relevant portion. This is a collection of key value pairs such as the MVIP, which is the management virtual IP address, the SVIP, which is the storage virtual IP address, a cluster admin username and password, and then the min, max, and burst number of IOPS for our SolidFire volume. And we'll keep in mind here, the min IOPS happens to be set at 5,000. That'll come into play in just a moment. Let me copy this and paste it. Now, since the min IOPS was set at 5,000, I need to actually repeat that 5,000 number in the capacity IOPS. So capacity IOPS has to be equal to min IOPS in the URL field. Then I need to pick a storage tag or create one. In this case, I already have a tag that I'd like to use, SolidFire Vol A. Now I'm all set, and I can hit the OK button. At this point, CloudStack is talking to the SolidFireShared plugin, which is going off to the SolidFire SAN and creating a volume. Once that volume's been created, we'll have a new IQN, a new iSCSI qualified name, which CloudStack can hand over to Xen server, which will then create a shared storage repository on that new LUN. Now that the process of creating a new primary storage has completed, let's go ahead and take a look at the results. In the CloudStack GUI, under the Infrastructure tab, under Primary Storage, I've selected what happens to be the top row in the table. This is our new primary storage. I'll click on its name to take us into the details. It contains a lot of information that is familiar to primary storages in CloudStack, including the fact that it is, in this case, 1 terabyte in size. And a unique feature we have here with the SolidFire SAN backing this particular volume is that we have a guaranteed minimum number of IOPS, in this case 5,000, which is what we did in fact set. Then let's switch over to the SolidFire GUI. We can see here We have a new volume with the name that we provided from CloudStack. It's in an account on the SolidFire SAN that supports the equivalent account within the CloudStack infrastructure. And it's also in a volume access group, so we are not using CHAP to gain access to this volume, but rather volume access groups. In this case, a particular volume access group that contains the IQNs of all of the hosts in the cluster that need access to this particular volume. Our size is correct, and if we switch over to the Quality of Service tab, we can see that our IOPS are correct. In particular, I'll point out the min IOPS, which we had set at 5,000. Switching over to Zen Center, I've highlighted our new shared storage repository, and on the right-hand side in that table, I've highlighted the size row, which indicates that our storage repository is in fact 1 terabyte. At this point, we can create compute offerings and disk offerings that make use of this particular primary storage, just like any other primary storage in CloudStack. Let's say we decide later that we'd like to increase the minimum number of IOPS to the primary storage that we just created. Let's do that. We're in the Infrastructure tab. Let's click on View All for primary storage. Then we'll select what happens to be the top row, which is our primary storage. We can see if we scroll to the bottom, our IOPS total, which is our minimum IOPS, is 5,000. Let's go into Edit mode, again scrolling to the bottom, and we'll change this value. Let's go from 5,000 to 10,000. I'll hit the Apply button. Now CloudStack is communicating this information to the SolidFireShared plugin, which has gone off to the SolidFire SAN and increased the minimum number of IOPS to that volume from 5,000 to 10,000. If we scroll down to the bottom again in the CloudStack GUI, we can see now that we have 10,000 IOPS total, 10,000 minimum IOPS. Let's confirm this inside of the SolidFire GUI. We have our previous information visible to us now, which says 5,000 minimum IOPS. Let's click the refresh button to get the most recent information. And now we can see that we do in fact have 10,000 minimum IOPS.